Yeah.
So here's an overview of video-based mobile learning. As you all know, mobile learning or mobile devices are quite popular with students, and teachers often find it a distraction in the classroom, and it is in many cases. So the idea behind video-based mobile learning is not only to help teachers help their students use mobile devices effectively for learning, but to use the videos, which is another element to video-based mobile learning. The idea is to peer learn, where participants teach one another, and that's what they will pass on to their students so that their students are also, and they'll model this, creators of their own content. Students will be creating videos. So the session introduced the participants to creating their videos using mobile devices. Now, they weren't always happy because the devices are kind of tiny. And when I say devices, I mean the actual phones, not iPads or anything else, but the phone, and it's kind of tiny. So sometimes the participants resorted to creating videos using the desktop. But the idea, of course, was to practice. Eventually, they got comfortable with it, and they started using it in the classroom. Some of the teachers were also able to do this in their classes, to try the activities in their classes, and that provided wonderful feedback for everybody, encouraged everyone to continue using their phones to create video tutorials, because that was the idea. Peer learning and creating content so that students own their work. And it's about videos. And students do use videos. They use TikTok and they use Instagram. They're continuously using videos anyway. So why not use them in the classroom? These were some of the video screen recorders that were introduced to the participants, and they're all completely free. Some of them are limited to 10 minutes, some are for longer. For example, open broadcasting software, or OBS, is available for as long as you wish. There's no time limit, and it's open source, so it's completely free. Loom has, I think, a 10-minute limitation. Edpuzzle also has a screen recorder where you can create videos. There's screen recorder, Vimeo, Flip, but what used to be Flipgrid, awesome screen recorder, screen capture, TechSmith Capture, which used to be called Jing many, many years ago. So the name changed, but it's still completely free from TechSmith. Padlet has its own, which is amazing, but only on Chrome, not on Safari. Padlet has its own screen recorder, and ScreenPal, of course, is the new name for Screencast-O-Matic. Now they call it ScreenPal. These are all free on the phone, except for ScreenPal. I think that I'm not sure that it's completely free on the phone anymore, but it used to be, but it's free on the desktop. The weekly tasks. Well, in week 1, participants were introduced to Novio. I don't know if you're familiar with Novio, but it's amazing. It's also free, limited. You only get, I think, 3 presentations, but you can also delete, just like Padlet. It's free, but you're limited in the number of walls. So Novio, they created 10 slides. It's also available, of course, everything is available on the phone, on the smartphone. 10 slides with only images, because students enjoy that. And then they speak. The idea, of course, is to improve your spoken English for the students, not the teachers. And capture the images with your voice, and then you speak through it. So they introduce themselves, 10 slides, and they had a choice. They could either use Novio, they could use Voki, or they can use Kahoot and ask questions about them, but they had to add images that gave away the answers so that there was no guessing. So lots of thinking there. In week 2, we discussed the challenges and benefits of Novio, because there's lots of research out there, amazingly enough, current research on the value of using Novio. For those who don't know, Novio is a way to present. It's like Canva. Canva now has this feature as well, where you create a presentation and you speak through the slides, and you see your camera as you speak, and it turns into a video that you can share or upload to Vimeo or YouTube. They also discussed the reading available on Novio so that they could think of the challenges and the benefits of using such a tool in the classroom. They also created a Quizlet study set, and they played the game, whether live or some of them played it in the classroom. So, of course, they tried the live Quizlet and journaling. We discussed journaling and the reflective practice. But this time, instead of using text for the journal, which is a diary in Moodle, they use Poodle, which is an audio and video tool also within Moodle. And that was exciting. They could share their reflections using their voices, because the idea, of course, again, is for students to speak, also to write, but speaking was the main idea here. In week 3, they used screen recorders and presentations, Canva, in week 3. And the topic was the importance of mobile phones in the classroom. So for each week, there was a topic, a question, a discussion with readings, again with Aminote, also a Moodle feature for note-taking and annotations. But they use different tools. Okay, week 2 was Novio, week 3 was Canva. And then, of course, they added their journal using, this time they had a choice. They could use multimedia, they could use text, images, audio, and video, or just one of them. Week 4, we focused on storytelling and using videos on the phone. And they used Animoto. I was surprised that many enjoyed using Animoto. I've been using Animoto for a number of years, but it's kind of old looking, even though they're trying to change it. But they enjoyed Animoto. They had a choice. They could use Animoto, Storyboard, Toontastic, which is on the phone. It's not available on every phone for some reason, since Google took over. If you can get it, it's wonderful. So Toontastic is fantastic. It really is. And Vimy, some of them found it useful, some did not, but they had a choice. But everybody loved Plotagon. If you're not familiar with Plotagon, it's absolutely amazing. On the phone, it's free. Students love it. They create dialogues. Again, they put voices to their characters. They create characters. And there's text involved there as well. Pixton Comics, if you're not familiar, it's also a wonderful tool for the smartphone. It's not completely free anymore. So things that were free, as Christine mentioned, I think some of them turn out to cost a little bit, but you can still use it, I think, at least a few times before they want you to subscribe. Week 5, as always, in the EVO sessions, it's showcase and reflect. They use curation walls and screen recorders. They added the recordings of what they had accomplished or what they found useful in the 4 weeks. And then they reflected with a Voki avatar as the end. Some of the interactive presentation slides that we used that they could choose from were Slides Carnival. They're all free. Nearpod has an interactive element to it. eMaze, Aha Slide, Slides Mania. They tried some of these genially. If you're with that, or Google Slides, you can also add audio and different elements, add-ons to Google Slides to make it interactive. And of course, Canva. Well, I love Canva, but the others are also interesting and useful. It depends on our taste, what we prefer and what not. So I think giving choices to participants is a way to make them feel that they don't have to do one specific. If it doesn't work for them, there's another that is just as good. And of course, the idea is for participants, for teachers to feel comfortable with whatever tool they use, even if it's the greatest tool in the world. If they don't feel comfortable with it, I don't think they should use it, even if it's great for everyone. Everyone's using it. But if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to be everyone, because you're you. These are the curation boards. Notice some of these curation boards are also screen recorders like Padlet. Concept board, boards, Wakelet, they're all amazing. Vigo, eLink, Scoopit, Mural, Pinterest, Google Jamboard, but they have some limitations in Miro. They're not all the same, and can't force anyone to use one specific one. You need to feel comfortable with it. Idea boards is amazing because you don't need to get an account, and students don't always like to get an account. So it's an idea to those. Introductions and reflections with a Voki avatar. And it was amazing to, this is my favorite part. One of my favorites is to listen, first of all, to look at the avatars. People look great, but avatars are very, very motivating, and they can add text and the avatar will speak, and you have to figure out how to add the proper text so that the pronunciation works. But dressing up the avatar takes time, and students love it. I'm talking about teachers who took the EVO sessions, love Voki. But I know from my students in the classroom, or the K-12 or adult learners, they love it. You watch them as they work in the classroom using their phones, and they really get excited with creating the avatars. They have a lot of fun, and it creates an amazing atmosphere in the classroom, an atmosphere of learning and fun. And of course, there's the feedback, but I'm trying to see if I missed something, which I think I did. Yeah, the first slide. I don't know, for some reason I missed it, and I think this is important. You can look at the phones. Any guesses on the year of the phone? When this photo was taken, around what time? Take a good look at the phones. They're not new phones. Any ideas in the chat? Anyone's reading it, or you can unmute yourself and share. What year do you think that was a grade 10 class, high school class? Yes, it was some years ago. Yeah, it was in 2010. No, actually, yeah, 2009, 2010. And I had a huge class of about 40 students, boys and girls. I think there were actually 42. And that's why they had to sit, because I don't like the rows. So I had them sit in L-shaped twice. I think there was the center and the sides to get everybody into the room. And this is how I started the lesson. They were really happy with it. Notice they're all smiling, because teachers were against smartphones. You weren't allowed to even take it out during the lesson in 2010. And I said, okay, everybody, phones out. And they couldn't believe it. Hold up your phone. And they were so happy. And that's how I started my adventure with smartphones in the EFL classroom. I saw their faces, and that's when I realized, Nellie, this is it. This is how they're going to connect, because it is about connecting with our students, and not just teaching at them, but working with them. So that was a lot of fun. I'm going to go back now to the final slides here. So this is the TESOL feedback and the digital badges. 37 digital badges were awarded to the participants. And of course, the certificate, my name is there, but on Moodle, it's automatic. The minute they complete, and that's set in there, they are able to access their certificate, or the system sends them the certificate by email. Sonia, did you get your learner certificate, your student certificate for participating?
Yeah, I did.
You did for
As
the
soon as,
mindfulness.
yes, as soon as I completed activities.
I don't know if there's anyone here from mindfulness, from video-based mobile learning. I'm not sure if there's anybody here. If you are, just shout out, unmute yourself, and tell us that you're here. And now for questions or comments, just unmute and feel free to ask questions.
Nellie, I don't know if it's for this
Yes,
session.
Larissa.
It's a question from Maylee.
Yes.
About peer learning, not to learn-centered. I just wonder, especially for students who are new to a learner-centered approach. I think it's just general, but
So I'm sorry, what's the question?
peer learning.
What is peer learning?
To learner-centered.
Yeah, peer learning is students teaching students. It's learning from peers by teaching. In other words, the teacher teaches, but students also teach. They teach one another by creating either, in this case, video tutorials, but they could be creating unique work of their own. Of course, this is part of what the teacher teaches in class, whatever topic you're teaching, and then they teach each other. I've had students teach grammar. I mean, I had groups in teams, you know, I always create teams in my classes. It's never, unless a student doesn't want to be on a team, that's fine. They can work individual, but generally the class is broken down into groups, into teams. And one of the teams was grammar. They choose their teams. What team would you like? And they chose grammar. And that's what they did throughout the semester. They taught grammar points. So, you know, they would go up there in the face-to-face class and they would teach the class. That's peer learning. It's teaching, students teaching each other. The name may not, you know, be an appropriate name for it, but that's what it means. I hope that helps. Larissa and the attendee who asked.
Yeah, thanks, Nellie. And the question was from Maylee, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Oh, Maylee. Yes.
Maylee.
All right. So I'm glad I was able to answer that. You can look it up.
She answered it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's the best way to learn. Just look everything up. Look up peer learning. You can use Chat GPT for that. And you'll get the information right there. Any other questions or comments? Peer instruction.
I have a question I put in the chat.
Yes.
Do students need to register at Novio?
Yes, everything. I think, you know, I think everything, all the tools that I mentioned, or apps as some call them, all the tools that are external to Moodle, you need to register for. You need to have an account, except for idea boards. You don't need an account for that. Is that what you meant, Andrea?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Novio is amazing. I think, you know what, maybe you'd like to compare it to Canva, because nowadays it's pretty new in Canva. You can record yourself as you create your presentation directly from Canva. So I'm not sure, you know, the studies, the research that's been done on Novio, you can use that, you know, read that and imagine what it would be for Canva, because it's the same idea, creating presentations with voice.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Feel free to unmute yourself. It's a lot easier.
Nellie, I have a question.
Yes, please.
How would you say that participation, active participation in this session compares to other sessions? I would have imagined that this one, as well as yesterday's tools for student collaboration, would be really actively.
Yes, it was. You're right. You know what? You are definitely, you're right. In fact, we had a participant who took both. And yes, it was very, very engaging for all of us. There was a lot of, I don't know, I guess, a lot of work together, participants got to know one another, they worked together, they were able to appreciate what there was a lot of active engagement.
Did you find that there was more completion also?
Well, that's all relative. You mean, completion was always there if they started the course. If they didn't start the session, then, so it's very hard to know why didn't they start the session. Those who started completed in most cases, unless there was something that came up unexpectedly. But those that never started, I don't understand why they never started. So I can't really, how can you evaluate, a course if you've never started it?
Right. Yeah, we had an average of 20 participants across the weeks, across the 4 weeks, but then the lesson added another element. So that's why we only had 7 certificates. But yes, you're right.
If they were active, Christine, then you can learn. You've got something to learn from.
Oh, yeah.
But if they never started it, what can I mean, what am I going to do? How can I can contact them and ask them, why didn't you start? Why didn't you start? But that's, because life, I was busy, I was doing something else. Maybe I was taking another EVO session and it was too much for me. I don't know.
You may not.
Why didn't you even introduce yourself? Why didn't you? What kept you from? Was it so easy? Or maybe it's just too easy to register. Maybe the registration process was too easy. You just need to click and you're in. Could that be a reason why the registrations were high? Maybe.
I don't know. We've always had that in EVO, and we haven't figured it out in 20-some years, Nellie.
Maybe the registrations around the new year with all the
maybe
professional development, New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, that's cute. That's an interesting viewpoint, Sonia. Thank you. Well, we'll see what happens next year. I think teachers are tired. Maybe they'll be less tired next year.